And leveraging our money versus leveraging our time, I find is the best way to be able to use it because my job as a financial planner is very simple. I know that every time I meet someone, their goal is to be able to purchase freedom. And whether they describe it as retirement planning or whether they describe it as trips with family, whether they describe it as getting out of debt, I know what they're looking for is freedom. That's what we all innately want. It's deep down inside of us that there's something that we feel we should be able to do. And when we feel that we want to be able to do it, that we just want to be able to do it. That we don't want to have to figure things out. And so we try to put the plans in place that give you that flexibility so that when you have that feeling and that itch, that you've already purchased the freedom to be able to do it. Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss my financial advice for high income earners. So this is a question that came across my feed where it was like, Dre, what advice would you give high income earners? And for the most part, I give you guys the same advice I give everyone because the goal is to help all of us to become wealthy. Now, in many ways, the advice I give my high income earners will mirror the advice I give everyone else because I want all of us to have a wealthy retirement. But the first financial advice that I always discuss with people is this idea that the amount of wealth we have is driven by the beliefs that we have. And the belief that we have, the wisdom that we have, the insights that we have to expose and experience new things to be able to get us to the next level. And what I mean is what got you here may not get you there. So, for example, if you were raised in a middle class life, then you know the plan. The plan is to go to school, get good grades, go to college. And if you go to college, you can get a pretty good job. And if you get a pretty good job, you make a good income. And if you have a good income, then you have a pretty nice life. And then if you invest in your 401ks within your company, and then you invest in different ventures here and there in the stock market as a whole, that you'll probably be okay when everything's said and done because time is very forgiving. Even if we don't make the best investment choices, if we stay invested for a significant amount of time, then we're going to be able to recoup a lot of the bad decisions as we learn and grow over time. But if your goal is to go to the next level, then you have to have a different plan in place. If you don't want to work for 40, 50, 60 years, then you have to have a different plan in place. Or at least if you don't want to have to work for income, but you want your income to work for you. So the first level is we have to invest in ourselves and educating ourselves and understanding that we have been misled in a lot of ways. And one thing that I often tell people to do is let's read biographies of successful and wealthy people. Let's not read the books that people write that tell us, hey, this is exactly how we should be able to do it. Now, it doesn't mean that all books where they lay a step by step don't work, but it does mean that overwhelmingly, when it comes to financial decisions, that those are the books that we tend to find aren't in the best interest of us because those books are designed to create lifelong employees. And so I often tell my high income earners that we will only be able to generate as much of an income as your beliefs allow us to generate. I have lots of strategies that I can share with you, but if you do not believe them because of different experiences that you had or things that you've read or information that you've absorbed over time, even if it's some things that you were like, man, I didn't even know that's the way my parents always done it. And while they did the best that they could, it doesn't mean that that was the best for you. And they got you to one level and they expect you to go to the next level, just like you would expect your kids to level up off of the knowledge and the wisdom that you share with them. Hey, as a parent, if I'm giving you my best information when you're in your teens and your young 20s, then I would expect by the time you're my age for you to have figured out something different, something new. And so that is also why I tell my highest income earners is we want to be able to invest in ourselves so that we can be aware of ways to invest our money. The next thing I tell my high income earners is even though you're being paid a good amount of money for your time, right? That's all it means to be a high income earner. It means that when I use my time, I get paid a lot more than the average person. Well, that is fantastic. We do want to get to a place where you're not selling your time at all, where your time is something that you purchase with the money, that your money is working for you. So the next thing I often tell people is we need to be able to live off of 70% of our income so that we can invest 30% of it. Now, as a high income earner, I'm more flexible with that number. I normally tell the average person, let's have 20% of our income that we can invest. But if you're a high income earner, there's no reason that we couldn't invest 30 to 40 to 50% of your income. If you can live off of 50% of your income, then we could put a 10-year plan together that's going to have almost all of your time purchased back. And the way I look at it is purchasing your freedom. There are stories that I've read about slaves who were paid money and they were able to purchase their freedom. And there was this one in particular, and I forget his name off the top of my head, but I believe he was taught to bake and he was able to work on the plantation for a certain amount of time. And then he was able to sell the baked goods. And based off the money that he had, he was able to work out something with the owner. And anyways, long story short is he was able to purchase his freedom, but he didn't just purchase his freedom. He continued to work an additional 5 to 8 years to be able to purchase his brother's freedom. So he was able to buy both of their freedom at the same time, and they both went off. For many of us, we don't understand that selling our time for money means that we're always in service to someone else. We want to get to a place where we are able to purchase our own time with the money. And for my high income earners, if you can live off of 50% of your income, then you're able to purchase your freedom and your family's freedom much quicker than if you just lived off the money that you earn from your high income. Even though we may love our job, it doesn't mean that we always want to be there. It doesn't mean that we can always be there. There are times that we can get sick and we can go through different situations in life where we really wish that we could take a break from work, but we can't. And for others of you, you know that having a higher income might mean that you have a more stressful job. And if your job is more stress and more demanding and you're traveling, once you have kids and maybe settle down, or you just get tired of sleeping in airports, there's so many reasons that you want to have an adjustment in your lifestyle, but you can't make that adjustment if your entire lifestyle is funded off of the income that you earn from working, which is one of the things that I believe high income earners miss the most is because the job is so stressful. It's because the demands that they put in, because they went to law school or med school or whatever the skill that they were able to invest in themselves to create, they feel that it's owed back to them. And I would feel that way too, because that's the way the system has groomed us, where we feel, hey, look, if you invest in all of these things that are kind of expensive, and if you think about the cost of school and the time, then you should be able to have all these nice things to show it. And because of that, we often get deeper into debt. And once your debt requires a certain lifestyle, then you're done, right? You have to work at least off the debt. And so the third thing I tell my high income earners is our goal is for you to be able to fund your lifestyle with your money. That ideally, the best situation would be for our lifestyle to be 100% funded with the money working to make more money, not with you working to make more money. So if we were able to invest a certain amount of your money, and then as you're able to generate an additional $1,000 every single month in your investment returns, and then you could say a quarter of my lifestyle is being funded by my money working for me. Then you can say half of my lifestyle is being funded by my money working for me. And then you can get up to 75%, and then 100% of your lifestyle is being funded by your money working for you. And that is a beautiful place to be. Now you may say, well, Dre, well, you're still working in the business. How do you know this? And I think I've told you guys my origin story, for lack of a better term, but I did have a very successful career. I did go to Florida State, have a bachelor's. I did go to Georgia Southern and get a master's in economics. And I was able to work in some of the most amazing companies. I worked at three of the largest banks. I worked at Deutsche Bank, Wells Fargo, and New York Life. I was able to enjoy a lot of these experiences. And even though I was making a significant amount of money, at least relative to what the average income was, it took up a lot of time. It was very stressful. And as I had more kids, I wanted my time more than I wanted the money. And I didn't really have the plan in place. So when I stopped working, I said, okay, I stopped working, right? I retired. I then emptied out my 401ks, and then I was trying to figure out how to get a business going before everything collapsed. And I didn't. I did not figure it out. And everything did collapse. And I had to sell my house. And then I had to go back to work. I had to figure out a lot of different things. And so I know exactly what it's like to have an income that's being generated by your earned income. And then when you want to make a change, you don't have enough systems in place to generate an income that's not earned by your active time. And you can only last so long. Many times we think that we're going to be able to put it together, that we have a certain amount of money, but even if you only needed a couple $1,000s every single month to maintain a lifestyle where you got all your expenses down, where you're living almost the backpack life, how long would that last if you retired in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s? Right? It probably wouldn't last a very long time because you can't access all the different investment. And that was a large reason when I went on the path of trying to figure out what do I need to invest in to be able to purchase my time back. Because right now I don't really have my time, or at least when I had my time, I didn't have the money, but I want my money and my time. I didn't want to be like I was in high school and college where I had a ton of time, but no money. I didn't want to necessarily be like I was in my early career where I had a good amount of money, but I didn't have any time. I was looking for that balance. And that's also what I tell my high income earners, that there is a point of time that you're going to want to purchase your time back. And regardless of how much money you make, if you have not built a system that allows you to purchase your actual time, where you're purchasing cars and you're purchasing houses, and you're purchasing trips and different experiences, but you weren't purchasing your time, then being a high income earner may not be all that it's cracked up to be. And what I show my high income earners to drive this point home is there's a bunch of stories, but I normally use Ronald Reed, who was someone who was a janitor who made maybe $30,000 a year. But when he passed, he had an estate of $8 million. Now, for many of them, they'll say, well, how in the world could a janitor have an estate of $8 million? And I tell them, and we go through the numbers where, hey, look, this person, if you're able to invest over a 30-year span, even a small amount of money, as Ronald Reed is assumed to have done, you will have millions of dollars based on how much you're spending in your lifestyle. So Ronald, while he lived a very simple life and he went to the community center and he had his coffee and just the very simple things that he did, he was very happy. He had purchased all of his freedom. I tell my high income earners that having more money does not guarantee that you will have more freedom, that we have to put a comprehensive plan in place to ensure that you do have the freedom to enjoy your life where you're not spending too much on the experiences that you're selling your overall freedom. And it's something that I share because it's something that I went through. I know exactly what that is like. And when you look at people like Ronald Reed, who was a janitor and had an estate of $8 million, then you can say, okay, I know that there's plans and systems in place that the recipe does not care how much money I have. If I follow the recipe, I'm going to have a delicious cake. And so we do talk about the benefits of a comprehensive plan, understanding how much money is coming in versus how much money is going out, understanding where my investments are, how much my returns are, whether I need to make any adjustments to my plans. Is it performing the way that I expected? Is there something that I need to make an adjustment to protect my money? And that normally leads us nicely into risk protection. Now, when you're talking about being a high income earner, what if something happens where you're disabled for a year or two or three, or something happens and you're not able to ever go back to whatever the work that you used to do was? Would you be able to maintain your lifestyle? And for many people, that's not the case. So we normally talk about risk protection. So that could be disability insurance. That could be overall life insurance, because obviously your income is the greatest asset that you have early in your high earner career. And so you want to be able to protect your family from that. So life insurance, disability insurance. If you're buying a home, I always tell people, hey, look, as soon as you build these assets up, you want to immediately have an increase in what your overall coverage is to make sure that your spouse is okay. Because there are stories of people who bought a house together and then someone passed the next day. So not only were you dealing with the stress of burying your spouse that you thought you're going to spend your whole life with, and then something crazy happened, you're now figuring out, how am I going to be able to make the mortgage payment? Do I have to move? Or we have to make so many lifestyle changes because we no longer have the income that we designed this life off of. And so I tell people, you want to be able to adjust your overall risk protection. As we get closer to retirement, we normally make risk adjustments in our investment portfolios. We often know that as we increase our overall assets, that it may make sense for you to invest in umbrella insurance, which is a very fancy way of saying that there's something that happens in my house or in my car, and it costs more than the coverage of my homeowner's insurance or my auto insurance, that I would like to have some umbrella coverage, something that kind of is a catch-all that protects my family. As you have kids and they make less than stellar decisions, that may open you up to other liability as well. So your umbrella insurance could cover that too. It's normally an extra layer of protection that's beneficial to high income earners, because a lot of the general coverages don't cover what the assets that you have are and the liability that you are opening yourself up to. Next on our list is, it's normally a good idea to have your team put together. So your team could be your financial planner, it could be an attorney, it could be a CPA. It's good to have a team of people that we can rely on to help us make the best financial decisions that protect me and my family. Now, it's good when you're talking about tax planning and optimization. As you start limiting the ability to write off some deductions, it's good to have a CPA in your team who is able to ensure that you're paying the least amount of taxes possible, that you're optimizing your investments, and that you're able to put things in place to make sure that Uncle Sam isn't taking all of your money. Now, that could be in your regular day to day. Like, I had a client who his CPA told him to go buy a Tesla because it was coming up on the end of the year, and he was like hovering around one of those brackets. And if he made that expensive a business, it was going to save him more money in taxes than he spent on the Tesla. Well, that's a great opportunity that a CPA can be aware of and help you with. On the investment end, we have these other things called tax loss harvesting, which is a very fancy way of saying that it may be in your best interest to sell some stocks that aren't performing that well, so that you can lock in the losses and then write them off against some of the gains and the taxes, where you're able to lower your overall tax burden. And then when it comes to your overall estate planning, as you're going to have more and more stuff, as you grow your family, you want to make sure that you pass things in the most efficient way possible. And so you may have an estate attorney that works with your financial planner, that works with your CPA, to where they build the trust in a way that ensures that your assets are passed on to the next generation in the most efficient way possible. If you have kids that you're worried about and the decision that they're going to make or how we're going to split it, well, as your financial planner, we can talk about putting a plan in place that ensures your kids are less likely to be arguing. And I'll put a link to another video where I do talk about some of the strategies that you can use in your overall estate plan. But for high income earners, you want to really have a forward looking strategy, because we get so caught up in the moment. It feels so great. You've done all the hard work. You've you've accomplished what we've been told is what we want to accomplish. But I'm telling you, at least for me, that along the way, freedom I realize is very important for me. My ability to decide what I do with my time was very important to me. And as you become more valuable, you also realize that the amount of money that we're paid, even though we're paid very nicely, it doesn't always match the value that we're generating. And there's really no other way to slice that cake. And also the politics that we deal with in companies where we just feel like we're maybe being taken for granted, or we're not necessarily being appreciated, or at least our value that we're giving isn't the value that we feel we're receiving. There's so much that goes into deciding our overall happiness and satisfaction in a daily life. And I'm telling you that flexibility and freedom is going to be really high on that list, because as family and different things become more important to you as far as allocation of your time, then it's something that you're like, well, dang, I would like to take off to go to that graduation. I would like to be able to pay for this trip and do these different things. And because we have all the money, but we don't have any other time, we're not able to do it. And when that happened for me, that was the moment that I realized that money wasn't the most valuable thing that I could get, that my time wasn't the most valuable thing. But to get the money to purchase my time, I had to provide a significant amount of value to you guys, to everyone else. So that way, if I provided you more value than you felt your money was worth, then you'll be excited to pay me. Where the money that you give me is your thank you. You're like, hey, Dre, I appreciate what you've done. You have made or saved me tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars to where it's totally worth that exchange. And that's what I've been working on. And that's something that I tell my high income earners, you have already accomplished this. You have generated such a significant amount of value in the workplace that they're willing to pay you a portion of the value that you generate. And that's how all life is. If you want to have a retirement worth $1 million, then you probably need to generate $10 million worth of value. If you want to have a retirement of $10 million, then you may have to generate $100 million worth of value. The amount of money that we have is always in relation to the value that we generate in the world. And that's why the best three investments we can make is in the stock market, real estate, and businesses, because those are three high value opportunities. If you have a business where you're helping 100 people a year and $100 is your profit, well, then you're making $10,000 a year, right? And you can easily help more than 100 people, right? What's 100 people in a world of 7, 8 billion people? What's 100 people in a country with 330, 350 million people? And so you're able to really leverage your ability by how many people you're able to help and provide value for. And it's the same way when you invest in stocks of companies, where if you're not someone who's excited about maybe helping people specifically and directly, well, if you were able to buy real estate, rent it out, that's a huge value to someone to have a house to live in. If you're able to buy businesses in the stock market and those businesses provide significant value, well, those companies were only able to do that because of the money that you gave them, the capital that you gave them so they can invest in the business. That's a significant value to the business. It's so valuable that if you give it to the right business with the right leadership team, they're able to 10x, 20x, 30x your investment, and then they are willing to share in some of those profits with you. And so that's one of the final things I tell my high income earners is the more value that we provide, the more income that we generate, and the less that we have to work actively to generate the income. That there's so many things that we can invest in that will generate the income because it provides a significant amount of value. And leveraging our money versus leveraging our time, I find is the best way to be able to use it, because my job as a financial planner is very simple. I know that every time I meet someone, their goal is to be able to purchase freedom. And whether they describe it as retirement planning or whether they describe it as trips with family, whether they describe it as getting out of debt, I know what they're looking for is freedom. That's what we all innately want. It's deep down inside of us that there's something that we feel we should be able to do. And when we feel that we want to be able to do it, that we just want to be able to do it, that we don't want to have to figure things out. And so we try to put the plans in place that give you that flexibility so that when you have that feeling and that itch, that you've already purchased the freedom to be able to do it. And for many of the families I work with, the next level is after I purchase my freedom, how do I ensure that my kids are able to be successful? How do I ensure that they're not trapped in the system like I was at some particular point in my life? And then when I'm talking about the wisdom that you have and giving it to the next generation along with the money, because we always discuss this, it's not the bag of money that creates generational wealth. It is the wisdom that you share. And we know this because about 70% of professional athletes are saying that they're broke when they retire. We know that 65-ish% of people who win the lottery are also broke within 3 years. We know that generational wealth is gone by the third generation. Within that's about 70 and 90% of the time. So we know that passing the money along is not enough. And we know that having money doesn't get rid of all stress, because we know that about 70% of people say that they feel stressed about their money. And it's just different levels of stress that we have between being poor and being wealthy. And so we do discuss that money is not the end all be all, that your freedom and your time is the end all be all. And as long as you understand that, then when you're making exchanges with your money, then you're aware that this is the means to an end. First of all, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this video and giving it to me. It could have been anywhere. You chose to be here with me. If you found value in this video, I ask you to like and subscribe to continue receiving valuable insights on how to create a wealthy retirement where you can worry less and live more. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy life.